Hi, you guys, it's me, Arden, and today I want to talk about taking care of our bodies and the importance of taking care of our bodies so that we can be vessels for the energy that we want to bring through. Something that um, something that was particular to my own unique trauma journey is that um, I think it's fairly obvious that I concentrate a lot on the mind and I concentrate a lot on the power of my thoughts and the power of language to create my reality and setting intentions and bringing consciousness, bringing mindfulness to that which I am doing so that I can think my way into a new reality, right? I can be very mindful of the choices that I'm making, the places that I'm choosing to be. I can align myself on purpose by choosing from my mind with places that contribute to my happiness, with friendships and relationships that put me in good feelings, that I can work toward these feelings, predominantly from a place of my mind. And I think that's great because it suits me. I'm someone who is pretty left-brained. I've also got, for those of you into astrology, I've got a ton of air in my chart. I'm an Aquarius sun and a Pisces moon, so I have all the feelings, but Aquarius sun. So, I try to logic them out and make them into systems that make sense. And I'm a Gemini rising, so then I talk a lot about it. So I'm very heavy on the information side of things, on the mental side of things. And that's great because my work often aligns with people who feel the same way, who are pretty analytical, who enjoy reading, who enjoy understanding concepts. Having said that, there was a point in my awakening, and it was around like the end of 2017 or so, like late summer, fall 2017, when I had pretty much gotten to the point where I'd worked through all of my past trauma, and I was having what people would call a Kundalini awakening. I was having everything kind of come together and make sense. A lot of signs and synchronicities that had been showing up, and this idea of the Kundalini awakening kind of came into my field in a big way. And I made a choice at that time that I knew that in order to fully step into my power, fully step into my power, what does that mean, right? But to embrace this awakening, to embrace the changes that were going to happen, that at some point I was going to have to deal with my body. I was going to have to deal with embodiment, with the idea of feeling my body, getting comfortable in my body. And at the time, I was in a period of what was really, near celibacy, really like radical discernment, and the idea of going back into my body, which felt so unpleasant after so much trauma, was something I just didn't want to do. And I remember like thinking to myself, I was like, I'll just worry about that when I have a partner. I'll worry about that when I'm, directly engaging with my sexuality again. I just didn't want to go in my body. I was much more comfortable with the mind part. And I kind of knew back then that I wouldn't be able to ignore my body forever, but there was so much more that was coming through on the mind side, so much more that I had to create in terms of, creating the repatterning project, in terms of writing, in terms of understanding things. And this past fall, winter, and I was partnered then, so it kind of makes sense. It really became glaringly obvious how imbalanced I had become, how much my mind was online with things and my body really wasn't. And again, that was out of a free will choice that I had made at the time, and I don't make I'm not putting any shame around that. I actually think that for myself, I did what was most in alignment for me to do at the time. But it just got to a point where it was like, okay, you can't ignore this anymore. Stuff around embodiment was coming up for me in my sessions with energy workers that that I was hiring, that facilitators I was hiring for my own personal growth, which naturally I still do, and it was just glaringly obvious. So, and I attracted a partner at that time who was just so incredibly embodied, who was a dancer and a martial artist, and who worked far more on his body, certainly than I did on mine. But we were kind of these polarities, He would tell me how he didn't really read a lot. He was he was dyslexic. So again, no judgment on that. It's just these are two opposite sides of the same coin. So being in that sort of a partnership and seeing that mirror, it was sort of like, okay, you know what? It's time for me to catch up. I feel like maybe in another lifetime I've had that skill to access. I've had that that strong warrior's body that I could really embody and use use my strength and my physicality as part of my overall vessel. And I just got this picture, of like, wow, I want to be like that too. I don't want to just sit on my couch, like writing posts on my phone with my body, like, I like curl up here and like I can't even feel my legs sometimes. I'm like all brain. I was like, okay, I don't want to do that anymore. It's time. I'm feeling the imbalance too strongly, and there's grief around there. I see why I didn't do it yet, but it's time to address this. So so I set the intention, and this remarkable thing happened, which was, it's funny, I set the intention, I thought I knew what I was going to do. I thought I was going to, start taking Krav Maga, and I thought I was going to start, doing a certain kind of workout at home, maybe using some of the gym equipment that's in my building that I've literally never used since I moved in. And no, once, I used it once when my partner was working out, my former partner. So, so that was, and that was the idea I had in my head. And then what happened was, and here's an example again of how like setting intentions works. Set the intention and be open to where it's going to come from. I was scrolling through Instagram one day, and I saw this photo of a woman who was going to be facilitating a class that was nearby me in a discipline, an internal martial art called Bagwajang, which I'd never heard of. Apparently it's an internal martial art that's a little like Tai Chi, but Bagwajang is a different form, a different tradition, but it's very similar in sort of intent and in quality, I suppose. So I was so excited because in this photo of her, she was embodying this warrior queen energy that looked exactly like I wanted for myself. So I show up to the class, and it's just been so in alignment. It's really cool. It's clearly the physical discipline that I was meant to take on for whatever it is that my body is going through and needs, particularly because it's clicking for me so easily. And it's not that complicated, but it makes a really big difference to me. And one of the things that, and this is one of the ways that I really knew this is an alignment, is I walked into the class on the first day, and the first thing we were doing is we were going over some slides. We were going over some. She was going over the lecture portion of the lesson, and she taught us how Bagwajang was developed by a man named Bodhidharma several centuries ago when he traveled from India to China, and he met these Chinese monks whose bodies, she describes it this way. She says their bodies were too weak to hold all the downloads of information that they were getting. And I was just like, oh my God, that's me, I'm the monks. That's exactly the problem that I'm having. And I recognized, I've recognized that in coming out of my trauma, you guys, when we're in our trauma and we're working through our trauma, it can be really exhausting. Our bodies can expend a lot of energy working through our shit, and that's why we want to cocoon ourselves. That's why we want to isolate. That's why we'll find ourselves like not going out to parties as much, not being as social, partly because a lot of those things that were maybe status or ego based before don't appeal to us anymore, but also because we feel this need coming from our bodies to isolate so we can process, right? It's the cocooning of the caterpillar into the butterfly. But at some point, we need to emerge from that cocoon. And for me, I got to a point where when I was in my trauma healing process, it felt completely normal for me to be sensitive and protective of my body, and and to be in that weird that weird sort of uncomfortable healing phase. But coming into 2020, I started actually asking myself, do I have adrenal fatigue without really being conscious of it? Is my diet affecting my ability to, to show up. I'm still tired a lot of the day. Maybe this is just a habit from being in such an intense trauma healing process and being on such an intense spiritual path. It's natural that I would be tired all the time. There are people who, other facilitators and other readers and channels who talk about what's going on in the collective, and we're moving so much density, you guys. Again, we are calling back these patterns. We are turning these big ships around in the ocean. It's no wonder we're tired all the time, right? But it got to a point for me where I was worried that it wasn't getting better quickly, and I was noticing where I wasn't really showing up for my full potential. And I thought, there are people out there who either haven't had as much trauma or haven't dealt with it, and they're coming from this place of, maybe they're not as like tapped in, turned on as I am necessarily. Maybe they don't see as much as I do, or they don't bring through as much as I do. But in fact, a lot of them kind of just, are repeating things that they've learned elsewhere, or just, focusing on their business from an external, kind of business coaching manner, not having it come from necessarily, I mean, I've essentially made a journey of teaching my own path as I take it, right? So if someone is not doing that, then they're not going to be in that same place that I am. And I look at some people and I think, yeah, wow, it must be easy for you to get up at 6 a.m. and, do your Tony Robbins affirmations in the shower and have your bulletproof coffee and all of this stuff, and I had like sort of thrown some shade at that, because I don't believe that like just the simplicity of a daily practice is enough for us to really, hold space for people. And it depends, and to be able to see the greater impact that we're having to the collective, right? And to be able to see our own path and our own journey, which is so important to us, showing up authentically. And, it's just my personal opinion, and I don't necessarily know everyone's life, I'm not like trying to make any judgments. I'm just saying that it just looks like a much different path to me, kind of like going from the outside in rather than from the inside out. I'll just say that much. And I'm not trying to throw shade on purpose. But I got to this point where I was like, I really owe it to myself to take care of my body and to show up with the same good habits, despite my trauma, because of my trauma, because I am now moving on from that, and I am now developing a relationship with my body that's much healthier, right? I've now created enough of a sense of safety in my environment that I can start feeling my body, that any resistance to beginning to feel my body is actually just resistance or fear that's coming from that past pattern. And I owe it to myself, and I owe it to my clients, and I owe it to the people who watch my videos to show up in the best space possible. And the truth is, if I'm not taking care of my body, I'm going to be tired, I'm going to be grumpy, I'm going to, I might still have all the information and that's coming through, but I'm not going to have the energy to show up for my work as 100%, right? I was like, I need to just do this. So Bagwazhang has been part of the practice that I've been doing, and my instructor says even just 5 minutes a day counts, and already something is aligning with me with this particular martial discipline, because my teacher, I've already noticed a lot of changes in my body and in my posture. And my teacher has also said, wow, you're picking up on this really quickly. I can see a lot of big changes in your body already. The other thing I've been doing is celery juice. I've heard so much about celery juice curing fatigue and all these other issues that can cause, tiredness and really severe illness in many cases, that I've been watching these testimonials come through about the miracles of celery juice, and I was just like, what do I have to lose? I own a juicer, so I was like, fuck it, I can go through the trouble of of buying a whole bunch of celery and making myself a celery juice and cleaning out the juicer every morning, it's worth it. If it's, I'm going to commit to it, I'm going to really see if it makes a difference. And I've noticed, I'm about a month, maybe a month and a half in, and I've noticed a difference, and I'm noticing a difference in the way that I show up, and I'm noticing that when I have more energy, I can embody compassion better. I can be more patient. When I have more energy, I have more to give, and part of that comes from having a vessel that can carry my heart space in the best way possible. And it does. It makes a difference, you guys. So there was a question that I noticed come in today in the parlor, and I was going to maybe make it. This is going to be a separate video, and then this question came in about how do I stop eating junk food, and essentially in terms of taking care of our bodies, I kind of want to say, I want to cut us some slack when we're in that trauma healing phase, because man, like, we can't do everything at all at once. There's so much that we are reorganizing in our systems that if we don't feel that we can take on, if there's only so many habits that we can sustainably create at a time, that's fine. I didn't do this for my body either until 6 weeks ago. So I'm not going to put judgment out there like that. But what I will say is that there will come a point where we really have to start taking care of our bodies. And if it's not enough of motivation, to just to be healthy, or to whatever whatever other reasons might stand alone for our healthy habits, I want to go ahead and put it out there and say that taking care of our vessel will make a big difference in the way that we're able to show up for ourselves. And working on showing up for ourselves is exactly the thing that we're working on, right? We want to be in our full power. We want to be in our full presence. We want to be able to be in the flow as much as possible. So yeah, meditation is the other one, to create more of that brain-heart coherence and that flow state. I've been working on that. And for a while, for like the first month, for the first month of the year, the 3 things that I just made a vow to do every day, even if I didn't do anything else, was celery juice, bagwajang, and meditation. And I did take, some time. I took maybe a week or 2 at the beginning of the year that, other than, posting and helping, to enroll for my course and everything, and doing that kind of work. Other than that, the only commitments I made were just these 3 daily practices to take care of my body. And now that I've been doing them for about 6 weeks, they're easy to do. They're easier for me to stick to. So having become habitual, I created that space for a little bit, right? I got to a point where I could create some space to create those habits. And now that I have the habits coming in, I'm really seeing the benefits of them. And I'm really grateful that I set that intention to jump that hurdle when embodiment felt so difficult and felt so painful. And I'm glad that I did that, because I'm seeing the benefits. And now that I'm seeing the benefits, I don't want to go back. I know that if I start to feel tired again, or if I start to feel that fatigue again, I'm going to check in with myself and be like, oh, if I'm not showing up in a positive manner for myself and my business and the art that I want to make and the friendships that I want to have and all the reality that I want to create in the world, if I'm not showing up as my best self, if I'm not feeling my best self, am I doing my celery juice? Am I doing my bagwashang? Am I doing my meditation, right? I haven't even changed anything else about my diet other than celery juice, although Anthony William, medical medium, who is the person who is the proponent of the celery juice movement, for lack of a better word, recommends eliminating other foods from the diet as well. And I'm sort of kind of lightly just allowing those ideas to percolate before I hold myself to anything that's going to be too difficult to keep. But just the celery juice alone is a starting point to show me how effective it is so far, how effective that work is, especially as combined with bagwajang and meditation. So if you're looking for more reason to take care of your body, if you need motivation to take care of your body, wow, it really does make a difference. And again, if you're going through your trauma and you need to dive into a pint of Ben & Jerry's, totally understandable. Don't take on more than you can take on in that time. And in that cocoon, sometimes food is self-soothing, and I'm just not gonna shame anybody for that, like, we can only do so much at a time. yeah, great. If you want me to tell you to like stop eating the ice cream and go be healthy, yeah, of course that would be a wonderful thing to do, you know. But you've got to get to a point where you want that, and you've got to get to a point where um, you have the bandwidth cleared to create that new habit. And if you're in the middle of creating a lot of other new habits and repatterning a lot of your old trauma imprints, that's a lot of bandwidth being taken up. So, you know, maybe this will be controversial or whatever, but you're allowed to put off the formation of new habits until you, you know, sustainably create and integrate the ones that you're working on now. So that's what I've got to say about taking care of your body. And for you, those of you who are ready for that and are ready to make that step forward, you know, I would just advise set the intention. And maybe Bagwajang isn't your thing, you know, maybe that's just mine, right? Maybe there is something that is better for your body and for your situation, and trust. And also for, you know, for your preferences, for what you're going to naturally be in the flow with in terms of your movement. So, you know, set that intention and watch for what shows up, and yeah, and then, you know, let me know if that's something that you start a new habit around. Tell me about the results that you're getting, because they're pretty wild. I'm pretty happy about I'm pretty happy about the changes that are happening for me lately. Thank you guys for listening. Hope this was helpful, and I'll see you next time.